Hi guys, welcome to this morning's Fife Property Show. It's 9:30, we're live and we're ready to go. So we're going to talk today about rental upgrades, the 5 improvements to increase your income. This is really the basics and fundamentals of property renting, and this is what it comes down to. So I've got my guests on today. I've got Karen Marshall, who's #1 letting agent.
Good morning, Jim.
How are you?
I'm good. Another lovely day today. How are you?
It is. Let's get on with the show and we can get rid of we can get outside. We've got Charlotte Caird. She's in the property management section.
Morning, Jim.
Hiya, how are you?
Yeah, great, thanks. How are you?
Good stuff. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. And we're bringing our guest today. It's James Watson. So James is a prolific investor landlord just now. He's doing a lot of refurbs. We are actually doing a live show tomorrow, almost like the Homes Under the Format Hammer. And it's going to be around about 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock tomorrow. We're going to be live from Ballingery, talking about his latest acquisition and what he's going to do to it, and also what return he's going to get from it as well, and the margins that are available throughout that. So morning, James, how are you?
Morning, fantastic. Bright and sunny here in Burnt Island this morning.
It is, isn't it? Okay, so let's get right into this. I mean, the rental market has really grown up. Tenancies are running for longer, and with stays of 4 or more years actually happening as a result of that, it is increasingly common. Tenants are actually having higher expectations though as a result of that, and they place they're willing to call home. So this spells good news for landlords, you know, because the higher expectations come with a willingness to pay higher rent. Which is always a happy day for that. More than that, the right improvements will also increase the value of your property, giving you the precious equity, and James and I are going to talk about this tomorrow in our show, about to expand and finance your portfolio further. It's all about, you know, but the buzzword is rinse and repeat. You know, if you get the formula right and you do the numbers right, you can just keep doing it and doing it and doing it until the bank probably says no. That's probably where they get to, isn't it? But which fundamental improvements make the difference in this? I mean, there's a fine balance you strike between spending too little and spending too much, and spending money where it counts. The key is to create a contemporary and timeless home that is durable and popular, to give you a wide and long-lasting appeal and minimal maintenance and repairs. That's the key. So when we're out in viewings, classic example here, Karen, isn't it? When we're out in viewings, we say exactly what attracts people and excites them about their new home. And there's no doubt that investing in presentation is rewarded in quality of the tenant and the rent achieved as well. So, I mean, you know, if you're looking for this, let's take a look at the improvements that will increase your income, attract high quality tenants, and protect the value of your home. So let's look at the first one here, paint. I mean, what, you know, when it comes to paint, what are we looking at? You know, James, you know, can you give me an idea? When you go into paint, what sort of painting should we be doing of a house?
So traditionally, we tend to sort of stick to bright colours like whites or magnolia or whatever, because it gives us
magnolia and white works every single time, doesn't it?
As soon as you come in the door.
But there's a new formula, isn't it? There's a new formula here. It's the misty grey, isn't it?
And feature walls. You know, where there's a fireplace, for example, you know, the rest of the room can be white, but they put in like you say, a misty grey. Just gives it a bit more a sort of modern take on the nice, clean appearance of the property.
Yeah. When you're taking people around, Karen, I mean, what reaction do you get when I mean, here's the difference here. When a property is scuffy, and maybe when a property is actually pristine.
I think fresh paint is obviously a great starting point. People are going to go in and you've got big scuff marks on the walls. It's obviously going to put people off for it. And I think just like James says, like a fresh colour, whites, greys are the way to go. Magnolia is just, it's on it. I'm sure I can see Charlotte's agreeing with me. Magnolia is on its way out. People want fresh property. Whites and greys are definitely the way to go for it. It's easy to keep up as well because it's just a solid colour that they can touch up if accidents happen, if scuffs happen. It's easy for them to touch up, but having that fresh coat of paint just makes such a difference for people going in and seeing the property in a better light.
Yeah, I mean, Charlotte, you know, James has actually just explained about, you know, what we should be doing in the beginning. Karen said, you know, what attracts the tenants as well. You know, what do you find when you're doing property inspections all the way through? You know, does that paint, is there certain types of paints or certain types of certain types of colours that will actually last over a period of time with a tenant?
Definitely. I think this colour of grey that I've got is really good because it covers a lot. So if you scuff it, you don't see it as much. But on a magnolia wall, you instantly see them. So you do find like the darker colours, so like a grey colour, I would say are much more better as well.
Yeah, I mean, from the second the front door opens, the conditions of the walls will be staring the viewer straight in the face, won't they? I mean, creating their first and immediate impression of your property. That's really what it comes down to. I mean, first impression counts, doesn't it, Karen?
Yeah, obviously I was doing viewings on Friday at a property that's all just had a recent refurb to it, and as soon as I walked in, people were like, "Oh, I can smell the paint," and like everything is brand new in here, and it does. It just makes it so much more appealing, and you're going to attract better tenants because you have a property done up to a better standard as well.
I'm almost tempted to say what the supermarket's do and buy one of these wee purifiers that actually put out the smell of paint. And just don't bother painting the house.
Yeah, get that painted, Jim.
Because when you think about it, it's right, James. Look, when you think about it, when you walk in and you immediately smell paint, you think, oh, it's nice and fresh. But you've actually not even seen the rest of the house yet. Mm-hmm. But it's that impression. So I kind of think the supermarket trick is, when you go to the bakery aisle, they deliberately put out the airflow so it actually smells with the bakery all the time. They get the oven fired up all the time to get you to buy stuff. That's the whole point. As soon as you walk in the door as well, all the tricks. Lavender as well is a classic example. When you walk into a property and you smell lavender, you immediately think it's fresh because you're completely conditioned by fabric softener adverts. Mm-hmm. So scuff walls look dingy, and despite being entirely cosmetic, have a deeply negative impact on viewings. That's, and on the other hand, a fresh coat of paint works wonders in any room and elevates everything around it and makes it remarkably good value. I mean, that is the key. Although brilliant white is undeniably bright and a great reflector of light, some tenants find it a bit cold. I mean, brilliant white on walls. Somebody actually spoke to me the other day, and it is a bit clinical, isn't it, James?
It is, yeah. But I think you have to sort of take it in a balance of what the rest of the rooms look like. If you're in an area that doesn't get a lot of light at the front or the back aspect of the property, then you want something in order to boost that light level.
Yeah. Karen, what's your thoughts on this brilliant white? Because you've walked into a lot of properties and they've been done in certain ways. So, what do you think is the best colours that actually get that impression, that first impression?
I think you definitely have to, like James is saying, it's deciding on what the size of the room is, how much light it's getting. If you've got a darker room, white is a good way to go because it is going to brighten it up. But if you've got a nice bright room already, you can have. I think even if you've got white, it's quite a good kind of just neutral base, basically, that somebody like James says, if they want to maybe have a feature wall, it's giving them a base to kind of do that for it. But I think it definitely depends on taking into account that the room that you're dealing with, maybe an off colour like Charlotte's got behind her, that darker grey, or just even an off-white or kind of lighter grey, just something to kind of take off that clinical side of it.
So, Charlotte, is it actually choosing an off-white or soft grey or other classic colours that give the walls a welcoming hue with matte on, maybe matte white, or probably an off-white on the ceilings, white satin or eggshell on the woodwork? Is that something that it would appeal?
Yeah, definitely. We see more people asking if they can decorate the properties on properties that haven't been touched and haven't been decorated. We're finding the newly decorated ones that do have the nice new fresh ceilings, the covings are all done, the walls are nice, and there's maybe a feature wall. You're rarely getting asked if they can change it. And as well, I think you need to depend on what colour of carpet you've got as well in the house. If you've got a really dark carpet, you don't want to be having dark walls either. So I think a brilliant matte white colour is good on the walls in these kind of.
It used to frustrate me quite a bit when I used to completely paint a house top to bottom, and then the first thing the tenant did when he walked in the door was say, "Can I paint?" And I'm like, "I've just painted it."
I think it's not that down to the landlord.
The best part is £1,500 getting somebody to paint this, and you're wanting to paint as soon as you walk in the door. What do you do with that? I mean, what do you do with that, James?
So yeah, I might end up getting that scenario myself because one of the properties is nothing but white pretty much throughout the house.
Yeah.
You know, I'm relatively flexible as long as it's done to a good standard and so on. But yeah, it really depends on the landlord. Really, they make that decision whether it's something they're for or against.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
Okay.
wouldn't have any objection certainly to somebody changing the colour. It's
Karen,
their
do you
home at the end of the day.
get that much in the initial outset when people are viewing property that they actually immediately taking a paint, even though it's just been painted?
Yeah, so we've had one recently that was freshly painted, but for that they'd done the bedroom white and the living room magnolia. So the tenant was like, "Can I paint it?" And I was like, "The landlord has just paid for this to all be painted." I was like, "What is it that you'd be looking to do?" And he was like, "I just want to paint it white." I'm like, "That's fine. As long as you're doing it up to a good standard and you want to paint it white, that's fine." I was like, "Not really for you like painting it blue or anything like that, but providing it's white, it's usually fine." But obviously it's something that we have to check with the landlords, make sure they're happy with. And obviously we say to the tenants, usually if it is a situation where a landlord has just freshly painted all the property, sometimes we would put a clause in that's like, right, you can decorate, but you have to be in the property for at least 6 months first. Because if they're going in, redecorating it all, changing it, and then going to end up potentially moving out in a couple of months, the landlord's back to a situation where that property is potentially need redecorated again, and we don't want that for them. So at least if we're saying to them, look, you at least have to be in for 6 months first before you start in, it gives that kind of settlement time for them to decide they do really want to stay and then make it their own home.
I think my biggest worry is, you know, if they don't do it to the right standard. I mean, Charlotte, how do we combat that? How do we account for that?
Well, obviously there's 3 monthly inspections done on property. So if they have asked to paint, I'll flag it up that they have asked to paint, and then on my next inspection when I go in, I can make sure it's done to high standard. If not, I'll talk to the tenant about the condition of the walls and say, look, you said you were going to paint, this is not high standard. Either you're going to have to get somebody in to fix it or fix it yourself, and I'll be back in 3 months' time.
Yeah.
And if it's not done, then, you know.
But the initial outset, we talk about that anyway, because we have talked about it before, about the fact that possibly we ask them how they're going to do it in the beginning. Are they just going to do it themselves? What experience have they got? And if we're not comfortable with that, then we'd probably insist that they have a contractor in, don't they?
Yeah, definitely.
It has to be somebody competent. I mean, when you think about it, I mean, in the past, this is probably why we've learned by my experience, because in the past, I've just said to people, "Oh, it's fine. You could just paint, no bother," when people come in, and then when you come to sign them out, it's all over the place. It's all, wait a minute, that was all my good woodwork, and then it's all over the windows and the frames and it's all around the doors and it's like on some of the carpet, and it's like, oh my god, I wish I had done this right. So it's probably the hit that I've taken that we've been able to build a system that actually, okay, this is the things that we should ask as a result of somebody asking to paint. It's almost like a checkbox exercise, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. I think as well, though, if you're a landlord and if you're keeping up to date with kind of the new trends that are coming out with decoration, if you are looking to decorate it, if you have a management agent, talk to them about what colours they think will work, because it might cost slightly more at the start, but then your tenants won't be asking to redecorate at the end of it. You know, fingers crossed, there's no scuffs on the walls. You won't need to do anything, and it's just ready to relet again the next time.
I think the biggest benefit, though, isn't it, that a tenant then finds it's their home rather than being a house, because they've invested time and effort in doing something for themselves to personalise it. So there is a fine line. I mean, I've often been asked, you know, if you could paint a room pink, and I'm like, oh no, and I'm thinking, oh no, but then the commercial reality is it's their home. So what I've suggested in the past is just like, okay, you can paint it pink, but it has to be put back to its original colour in original state, and not just a half-baked effort when you actually leave the property. I think that's probably one of the best advice I can give for people that want to paint. And is that something you would agree with, Charlotte?
Oh, 100%. And as well, if you have it in writing that way, at the end of the tenancy, if they don't do it, and you've got it in writing saying, well, they said that they were going to put the walls back to the original colour, you've got a clause for claiming against on the deposit for the money your outlay for money to repair the walls.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely having everything in writing is key as well.
I mean, you've had that experience in the past as well, Karen, because you've been in property management before. So how did is that something you've come across before, and how you've dealt with it?
Yeah, so we've had usually when I'm doing, obviously on the flip side of it now, doing viewings, it's when people come in, they're like, oh, could I redecorate? And I'm like, look, we usually ask that you just check with us before so we can check with the landlord that they're going to be happy with it. The majority of them are, providing that potentially you put it back to the condition that you got it in, basically. So if it was a white wall and you're painting it pink, you put it back to white when you're moving out. But obviously we've had one, and it was a tenant, and she was in the property for a long time. And she'd obviously done decorating, and it wasn't up to the standard that it should have been. But obviously when it came to the point where she was moving out, we had a good relationship with her, and I just spoke to her and I was like, look, it needs to be better than this. So she came, she got the keys, and she went out and painted it, and she did a good job of it. And that was it. It was done. We were able to get a resolution from it. She got her full deposit back because we were able to obviously discuss it with her and get a resolution without having to go down the routes of a deposit claim and then the landlord's trying to sort it out. So I think all is just in the management of it, that how you deal with it to make sure you're getting the best outcome from it.
This is the key we spoke about last week about communication with your tenant, isn't it? And the fact that you can openly discuss these things without actually being confrontational. And keeping these open lines as a result, and they feel that they can come to you with anything, and you won't immediately fly off the handle, because and not as personal experience, but running the landlord association before, for the Fife Landlords and the National Landlords Association, and I was on their, I was one of I was the advisor for Scotland, as well as the chief executive. But I found that when some landlords came to me, it became very personalised to them. It became a very personal thing to them, and they couldn't look at it objectively in a commercial situation, and they felt that they had to control the whole thing, and they refused to let them paint a room, or when they had painted a room, they went absolutely ballistic at them. And I'm thinking, you shouldn't be a landlord. That's the reality, because being a landlord is all about all you're doing is providing a property for someone, and you've got a duty of care. You've also got a duty of responsibility to make sure they are happy in their home. And probably that's one of the painting aspect I mean, you just think it's paint, but the reality is it's more than that. It's what we said before. It's turning a house into a home.
It's trying to create the win-win, Jim, I think, and it works both ways.
It does come down to that. Yeah, it does come down to that. It's the win-win situation, and in the past I've actually just go ahead and paint, but it has come back to haunt me. So I've learned by my mistakes, and we've put some internal control mechanisms in place in order to ask all these questions first before we go any further, just to make sure that we minimise the risk of actually getting a property back, and it's been basically obliterated with somebody having a almost what we'd call a paint party with all their friends, while they're having a drink at the same time. And then you get up the next day and think, that's maybe not how I remember it. I didn't remember going over that line on the wall. I don't remember painting the door. Who painted the door? That's the sort of thing I'm thinking about. And that's where we are just now. So let's look at the next subject. Okay, let's look at kitchens. We speak about this in our show, James, the kitchens. You'll be pleased to know that not every kitchen upgrade means ripping out the old one and starting again. You can replace door handles. You can replace splashbacks and doors and worktops for an instant improvement. So look carefully at whether the whole thing really needs to go when you're in a kitchen. We've talked about this, James, and you thought just get it all out and get who's your best supplier for kitchens just now?
So obviously MFI no longer exists, but if you go to Howdens, they actually sell them open kitchens, and they're normally quite good quality and reasonably priced. You don't have the outlay going to MFI or wherever it is and getting all these add-ons and whatever else,
Yeah.
You get a design.
MFI bought Howdens?
Well,
aye, MFI bought Howdens. By the way, this is just a personal joke. MFI made for idiots.
But their kitchens are good.
Has anybody? I know, but that's because they bought Howdens and they needed the carcasses in the build and everything like that. But here's a classic example: has anybody, when they get MFI, got extra screws and extra stuff left in their pocket? You're nodding your head, James.
Yeah.
Aye. Well, that's mine because I've not got them. So could you give me them back, please, for mine? Anyway, so MFI, Howdens, Wren. You know, how do we rate Wren kitchens?
Again, they try and force you down the path, Jim, and getting their own installers out and stuff like that. And there normally is a plusage to that. Whereas if you get quite a competent joiner, they can put all these carcasses together and they're a fraction of the cost. And they do every bit as good a job.
Mm-hmm. What else? We've got B&Q. So the one thing I don't think B&Q do ready built carcasses though.
I don't think they do. I think that again they put you in touch with their design service and their fitting service and so on. Yeah. But you can buy all the sort of standalone type stuff like the Cook and Lewis cooker tops and ovens and whatever else. But yeah, when it comes to the actual kitchen themselves, I don't think they sell the carcasses like you say, unless potentially you're in the trade. You can maybe buy individual carcasses.
Howdens, the other one as well as Magnet. Now they do ready built carcasses, but Magnet, I think the biggest challenge for me is Magnet's not local, so you can't really just pop into a depot if you're missing a part or an end panel or anything like that to add on to it. I mean, that's where the trade-off is. So we're kind of stuck where you either go to B&Q or you go to Howdens. But Howdens ready built, B&Q's flat pack, and then you have to trade off. In my mind, you have to trade off the fact that how much in labour is it going to cost you to build the carcasses, and then are you going to have a competent person actually building the carcasses so they'll actually stay together? Because you know yourself, some people have had a half-baked effort at it, and you come in over time and the kitchen's all wobbly and the cabinets are wobbly because they don't actually know what they're doing, and they don't fit it together properly. So the ready-built carcasses have got a great plus point to them, the fact that you just take them off the lorry, you stick them in place, you fix them to the wall, you do everything else, and the job's done. You know, is that kind of what you've experienced, James?
Well, I normally leave it to contractors to be absolutely fair, Jim. But I've had a tour of Howdens and seen how they sort of put these things together, and they're pretty solid. Yeah.
Charlotte, we had 15 Parker Wind done recently.
Oh, I love that kitchen. I've fallen in love with the kitchen. I love the kitchen.
See, the thing is, what is the trends in kitchens? Now, you saying you love the kitchen, but gloss white and black worktops, the ebony worktops, are apparently they're on their way out. You know, that sort of style. So, and it's now, what is it now, James? It's Whisper Grey. It's the greys again, and it's a different type of worktop. You know, that's what I'm seeing anyway.
Some of them are looking for marble effect type stuff. And doesn't necessarily need to be marble, but if the effect's there, it makes it, again, it brightens up the kitchen, which may otherwise be dull. So there's a lot of people going into that sort of thing. But yeah, you often hear people saying, "Oh, well, it's just a rental," but you want to just do a wee bit above the minimum standard to make it, again, somebody's home.
What's your experience of kitchens, Karen? So when people walk into view properties, I mean, what is it a wow factor? Is it a big plus point?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, when it comes to things like a living room or a bedroom, these are just like, you could put a rug down over the carpet or you give it a coat of paint, but a kitchen and a bathroom are like, they are what they are. So you want something that's nice. Like, you can't just like paint a kitchen worktop or paint the cabinets. Like, it has to be something that people are going to like. And obviously you're spending a lot of time in the kitchen cooking or doing washing, so people want one that they do like. So obviously when you've got like a nice integrated hob or an oven, obviously it just makes it look a bit nicer, and going for lighter colours. But again, people are being more kind of extravagant, I think, now with kitchens. Like, you see quite a lot of, not that I'm advising putting this in a rental because it's not going to be everybody's taste, but like the blue cabinets that are coming in, they seem to be, honest, I really like them, but I wouldn't advise putting them in a rental because they aren't going to be everybody's taste. So again, sticking to more kind of like neutral colours, and yeah, like James is saying, like the marble effect is really coming in just now, and it's nice to have a nice kitchen that somebody's going to want to spend time in.
See, I used to stick to the beach with ebony worktops. And now, yeah, so you're shaking your head
Yeah,
at
I'm
it.
shaking my head. No, yeah.
The thing is, Charlotte, the beach was actually the white, you know, of its time.
Yeah.
But beach is so, I mean, when I think about it, I was probably putting in beach carcasses probably about 25 years ago. So it has lasted all that time, and now it's done its course. We're back into white, and now that's almost done its course as well, and we're now into the coloured ones. And dare I say, are we going to have coloured bathroom suites coming back?
Oh, please, Lord, no. No.
My
Tim,
Pampas
we're trying to
Greens
get rid
ones,
of your
I've never
old ones.
taken them out. The Pampas Greens ones will be back.
We're
I'll
just
be
taking
bashing
these-
trend. People will be walking in the 1970s stuff, and they'll be going, "Wow, this is absolutely fantastic."
There's a
Don't say that.
market
Just taking out
avocado
one of your green bathrooms.
Just getting rid of one of your peach coloured ones. Like, no, they're getting out.
So kitchens sell houses, Charlotte?
Yeah, 100%. I think, like you said, Park Hill, that we've just did a refurb on. The kitchen's stunning. Everything's built in. Everything's flush. It's sleek. It's beautiful. It really is. And I think with the integrated appliances, when you go in, you're like, right, okay, I don't need to find anywhere for my cooker because it's already there. I don't need to find anywhere for the fridge. It's already there. Little things like that, it does make a big difference.
And we've just done Taylor Street as well. You know, we did the L shape on Taylor Street.
You have.
Same
That's
model.
lovely too.
You know, white kitchens, black worktops, and then we're just about to start Dury.
Well, that's it, yeah. And I think as well, especially with 15 Park Hill, we've tiled the surround of it, but instead of just putting white grout in, it's like a light grey grout.
Yeah.
One as well, it won't go that awful orangey way, you know, if soap suds are on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the little things that make such a difference.
It probably is the little things, but I remember the white tiles used to be in public toilets. And that's James, you're nodding your head, and that's kind of what put me off for years, and the fact that you actually see these in public toilets. Why would anybody want them? But the grout, the different colour of the grout actually completely changes that. And it's like what you said, Charlotte, it's just these slight, subtle differences. It make that fundamental difference overall to the instant appeal as somebody walks into a kitchen and just goes, wow. They know straight away, don't they? They love it and they want to take it. Is that the impression, Karen?
Yeah, definitely. It was Park Hill that I was in, that people were walking in and smelling the paint, and there was people and they were like, I love it. So it makes such a difference, just having that wow factor, that freshness, that modern feeling as well. And it comes around to people want to stay longer as well because they've got a property that they're happier in.
Well, look at Castle Street in St. Morans.
Yeah, that kitchen's beautiful too.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I provide a good standard.
You do. You do.
I've got the template and I've got the model. That's why it works. I know. Do it every single time and it works. You get a longer tenant, longer occupancy. You get higher.
That was a great
higher
kitchen, and it was nice.
That's a great kitchen, not a white kitchen.
Yeah,
great kitchen.
but ideally, and it works. You get a better quality rent, you get a better quality tenant, and you get a longer occupancy as well. And that's got to be a win-win for everything, James, isn't it?
Indeed, yeah.
So whether you're choosing to totally refit or replace the selected elements, follow these rules for an enduring, impressive and low-maintenance kitchen. So here's the classic. Flat-fronted drawers and doors have a sleek, clean lines, and they're easy to maintain, with white and grey, always in vogue. We've just spoken about this, and simple to accessorise. I mean, here's a classic as well. Brushed steel handles are modern classics and will complement any style and colour that you choose. I mean, it always stays in. Metro tiles for splashbacks are eternally stylish and can actually burst in colour and contrast. Exactly what you said, Charlotte. You know, with this the white tile, but just that additional grout as a change. And I've seen actually people just change the worktops. So I've been there when I first saw it, and they've just changed the worktops and they've changed the sink, and I'm like, wow, that's like a brand new kitchen. And when you walked in before, you thought it was quite dated, but it was only worktops and sink they've changed. So worktops in composite stone or high quality laminate look smart and low. They're low for maintenance as well. While quartz and with granite and luxurious finishes, you want to go higher end. That's really not for my market. That's probably about the price of the house. Solid wood worktops, that's again high end, but they need looking after. I've been trying to go for the laminate effect, butcher's block effect, the solid wood worktop. But apparently I've been told by Howdens they're actually phasing that out now because it's not in vogue anymore. So I have a sneaking suspicion I'll not be able to get it anymore. And I was going to put that in one of my properties at Dury Street. So I have a belief that they'll probably end up saying we've only got the ebony ones, which is fine. Because I mean, you've just told me straight away that it works, Charlotte, and it's actually, believe it or not, it's a less expensive worktop. So I might get on the phone on Monday and actually change it around and just say, look, Jane, it's less expensive. It's less expensive than it works. I mean, the presence and the quality of appliances attracts more scrutiny than it used to. A dishwasher is no longer seen as a luxury item. That's actually quite surprising. And an old-fashioned electric hot plate makes cooking seem like a chore. I mean, I have never liked hot plates. I've had it once in a blue moon where people have said, I want electric. And I'm like, really? I'm not really keen on putting electric in at all. I like gas. It's controllable. And I think every single tenant likes gas as well because it's easy to turn. It's the old advert. If anybody, well, you guys are maybe a bit younger than me, but I remember British Gas. The classic is they used to show the boiling pot over on the electric hob, and then they just used to show the gas one where it was about to boil over. They turned the gas down and it went down straight away, and it never boiled over. It was a brilliant advertising marketing campaign for British Gas. A washing machine also with a small load capacity means continual wash day blues. So that's a big plus as well. If you're doing what we call part furnished washing machines integrated in that, you really want a high capacity. Maybe a 7 or an 8 kilo now you get as standard. Spin speed's important as well, believe it or not. Spin speed. I mean, we're getting geeky here because that's the type of things I think about. The higher spin speed, the more water you take out, the quicker you dry, the more money you save. Well, hey, it all comes down to efficiency and savings. Investing in well-respected and reliable mid-range brands like Bosch, EAG, Neff, and are a visible demonstration of your commitment and quality. They make living in your property more enjoyable for tenants to love them, and you'll also have a long-lasting appliances that need less maintenance and ongoing expenditures, which means less hassle all round. Is buying cheap for a kitchen the right course of action? Or, I think that says it all. You're all saying no. No, because it comes back to haunt you, doesn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, like, if somebody is looking to completely renovate a kitchen, there is options that does make it cheaper. Like, if you go to Howdens, don't look at the brand new stuff that are coming out. There is end of line options there that are significantly cheaper, but actually, you can be sometimes better than the brand new stuff that are out. So there always is options to make it slightly cheaper.
Yeah. Okay, so that's kitchens. Let's talk about floors. I mean, floors really take a real battering. Everyone walks over them, furniture sits on them, moves about on them, bags, suitcases, bikes, strollers, and pets all take their toll on the flooring. While carpets are soft to walk on, they can become worn and accumulate lines of dust in the bottom of the doors and imprints from previous furniture. Cheap laminate can look good when it's fitted, but over a period of time, the edges start to fray, they start to lift, the joints start to do, the laminate starts to peel off, the chip very easily, and it all leaves your property over a period of time looking very unkept and uninviting, negatively impacting on your rent. I mean, that's the key here. I mean, would we go as far as going for engineered wood floors, in areas of halls, bedrooms to look smart? They're hard wearing and they make the property look a bit bigger when laid throughout. Would anybody recommend engineered wood flooring?
I mean, I've got just plain laminate, and I have found where my table sits and the chairs coming in and out, the laminate is starting to scuff quite a bit. Yeah. So probably,
that's probably one of the reasons why I put proper contract laminate in the offices, because I felt that, if I was going to put cheapy laminate in the offices, they wouldn't last the time at all. And within a few years, it would look horrible. So I actually went for a real high quality, hard wearing contract laminate. But homes, laminate floors on flats above other flats, is that a preference?
No, definitely carpet. I would say with an underlay as well. Carpet
with
underlay.
If you've got somebody especially if you've got someone with kids like running around, like you don't need that. All you're gonna get is neighbour complaints from anybody, even if you're just up and walking around. Like the amount of noise that can travel from it. So definitely, if you've got an upper flat, carpets are the way to go. Only advice when it comes to carpets: do not put carpets in an entrance vestibule. We've got a couple that are like that, and it's just they're not going to last. So it's going to be definitely more kind of like tiles or wooden flooring down there, just to something more durable and that can clean as well.
I usually typically go for vinyl. So vinyl in the entrance vestibule. Even if I've got tiles there, I'm never a big fan of tiles in the entrance vestibule because of water and tiles just don't mix for walking on. I'm always nervous that people will slip on it. And so that's why I end up putting vinyl right over the top of it. Classic as well is if you've got a laminate flooring, upstairs, then just put a carpet straight over it. You know, you could put a felt back. It makes it really easy, doesn't it, James? You know, have you come across this yet? Where you've just thought, I'll just put a carpet right across that. It's a perfect bed for it.
I haven't actually, no, but yeah, carpet's my favourite route for anything that's upstairs. And I tend to go for the hard-wearing carpets that, you know, if there's a lot of volume of traffic, you know, bathrooms, classic example, you know, you'll get a lot more traffic going into a bathroom than you will a bedroom. So, yeah, it has to be a hard-wearing, durable carpet.
It
I tend to favour laminates downstairs.
So laminates downstairs, carpets upstairs in bedrooms, hallways. What we're thinking about for that? Laminate or just go for the carpet still?
So no, I think what we ended up doing was getting engineered wood for the hall into the kitchen because again it's a high traffic area.
Okay.
Just one runs into the other.
So the big advantage about engineered wood is it's less expensive than solid wood, and it still can be sanded if you really want to later on.
But you lose the colour, a bit of the colour anyway.
Yeah, you lose it, but it is hard wearing and it still looks good. I mean, you know, Karen, what's your first impressions about what is the best thing for floor coverings when you walk into, you know, what's your advice on what people respond to best?
Probably, to be honest, I think kind of the color scheme that people go for as opposed to like particularly what's down. So if you've got like a horrible colored carpet or like a beige carpet down, people don't really want beige anymore. Like the light greys are kind of the way to go for floor coverings these days. Definitely would not advise putting like a green carpet in because that's
you're the king of beige, Jim.
I'll just cross that off my list.
King of beige.
It's fine, Jim. You've got the younger ones in now. We'll keep you up to date with it. It's okay.
It's just fine. Carpet.
So magnolia is off.
No magnolia, no beige.
Beige carpets are out.
You're not getting that kitchen with those worktops anymore either.
Well, you don't want to end up knocking over your bottle of red wine and a cream carpet, do you?
Exactly.
So people when they walk in, they respond better to. What do they respond better to in terms of carpets?
Yeah, definitely carpets upstairs. People want, like, when you're coming out of your bed, you don't want to be getting out your bed and putting your feet on like a cold floor. So definitely carpets upstairs. It just gives it that bit more warmth as well. And then like laminate or wooden flooring downstairs. But definitely in the hall, I wouldn't really advise carpet down because you're going to get a lot of traffic in, and you've got people, if you forget to take your shoes off and they're dirty, you've got big dirty your carpet. So definitely wouldn't advise putting carpet in a hallway either. Fair enough going up the stairs, but not on a hall.
From a property management view, Charlotte, you know, for when you go in to do inspections, you know, what is the best floor coverings you should get or use, just through personal experience now with inspections?
So the new style carpets that are washable, bleachable, you can put bleach in it, it's not going to take the carpet out. So if you do knock over, if you have a beige carpet and you do knock over a glass red wine, you can put bleach in it, scrub it, and it comes straight out. But definitely a definite durable one, and nothing not a thick ply, like a thick pile either on it, so you can't get in and get everything up out of it. But as well, think for bathrooms, there's a new thing called UPVC click laminate.
Yep.
That stuff is crazy good, absolutely crazy good.
Mm-hmm.
So I think as well that for kitchens and bathrooms is top dollar.
I tend to find vinyl's my go-to, and because vinyl's easy. If there's anything that happens to it, it's easy to take it out and put another bit in.
Yeah, but your vinyl can rip quite easily. So you're trying to pull out your washing machine, you can easily rip your vinyl, whereas click laminate, it doesn't. And it's actually just as cheap as vinyl.
Yeah. It's probably if you need to get, and it's probably never going to happen. And I don't think it's ever happened in this lifetime of me doing this. But when you put click laminate in on a floor, my impression is you can't lift floorboards after it, and then you have to burst it all up to get in. But the reality is, I mean, now I reflect back on it, I think to myself, how many times I've actually needed to lift floors. So the trade-off and the benefit of using that is probably more beneficial to the actually not using it, I would say.
I mean, I put click laminate down in my bathroom because I thought it's waterproof. I don't like vinyl. I'm going to put the click laminate down. It's completely waterproof too. But no, I've already taken a bit up because I thought I had a leak at the back of my toilet, and I was able to remove a bit of it and put it back down, and it's absolutely fine.
Is there a certain colour, Karen, that works well when people walk in the door?
Yeah, definitely going more kind of like on the grey side of it. So, for example, we had 2 properties that were flats in the same street, pretty much the same layout, one of which was more kind of like magnolia beige carpets. The other one had been recently done up and it was white grey carpets. And the one that's white with grey carpets had it let agreed within like, I think it was about a week, whereas the other one there for longer because they don't want it anymore. Obviously, it's not for some people will still like it, but it's out now. People want whites and greys, and so yeah, definitely like grey is probably the way to go. And it's also more kind of, if you do get like a wee mark on it, it's easier to clean or it doesn't show up quite as quickly.
This is amazing because I remember when grey actually went out of fashion. and now it's come back full circle and it's come back in. It's because the first thing I used to think of with grey is battleship grey. And we used to, oh God, no battleship grey again. And I remember people saying that, no battleship grey again, but it's come full circle and it's back in fashion, it's back in vogue.
I think there's a fine line though between how dark of a grey to go.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want it too light because then you're still seeing all the scuffs and marks. But this colour I've got 2 young kids, and I think everything's been spilt down my walls, and a quick little touch up, and you can't see that it's been touched up either. Whereas with the white, you do see that by the time you've lived in it for a couple of years, it's not so much white anymore. So if you're going around with your touches up, you can definitely see a difference.
Perfect. Okay, so we've got that. So we're on to bathrooms next. So bathrooms. Let's look at bathrooms. I mean, tenants regularly ask us if they can test the water pressure. Here's a classic on viewings. Can I test the water pressure? Can I see if I get it as well when I'm doing viewings. Can I see if the pressure's all right out the shower? That's a classic example. So how powerful is the thermostatic shower as a priority? I mean, dribbling hoses with fluctuating temperatures no longer cut it. People want invigorating shower experiences to start their day, so put them in a good mood every morning rather than actually looking for a new place to live. If your bathroom needs replacing, a plain white modern suite worn by grey floor and wall tiles will provide a timeless contemporary style with universal appeal. So don't skimp on taps that you'll soon be replacing parts to go for by going for the cheapest option. The cost of repairs will eliminate the initial savings you're actually trying to do. I mean, choose metal finishes like chrome, again, brushed steel, nickel. They never go out of style and they're easily to maintain and coloured with colour lacquers than the colour lacquers themselves. Because I remember when taps used to have a plastic coating on them. So I see you, James, you're nodding your head. The plastic coating actually peels off now, and it's like, oh no, it's. And then once you've fitted the bath against the wall, it's like, how do you get into the taps to actually change them? So bathroom, James, what's your thoughts on the bathrooms?
So yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Something that looks quite modern, it's a trend now to high pipe work and so on. One of the properties that I've got, we swapped out the electric shower because we were putting in a combi boiler anyway. We replaced it with a rain shower.
Yep.
So that works quite well. Going back to your point on pressure, so the property concerned is fed off the Cascaburn water tank. Mm-hmm. And historically, the water pressure is quite low, so what we have to do is install a pump. But for the sake of £300, it's now functional like any other shower.
Yeah, I mean, if your shower doesn't work properly, there's no point in having a shower. That's the reality. It's almost like a token gesture if you like that, and then it sends it. For me, it sends out a clear message like I don't care about the property. That's it really, and then it sends out a message to the tenant about why should you care about the property. Is that kind of impression you would think, Charlotte?
Yeah, I mean, like for a woman myself, if I've got a low pressure shower, I've got really big thick hair. I'm not spending half an hour in the shower trying to get my shampoo out my hair. Just wouldn't do it.
Do we need to talk about hair?
You're lacking thereof. I could not have a property or a home if I didn't have a good shower. Just couldn't.
Karen, what do people when they walk in the door for the first time? What's their impressions for bathrooms? What sells well to a tenant?
I think of white bathrooms is the way to go. Obviously, a white toilet, white sink. If you've got a vanity unit, it's giving them a wee bit of storage in the bathroom as well, and definitely like a white bath. It means as well, if you're going with white, you can then, as times change, you can either change like the tiles or the wet wall to keep it more kind of modern. But if you're going with white, it's more kind of effective cost-wise as well, because one, it looks more appealing, and two, it's going to last longer with what people want. Especially like if you're putting tiles in. I like tiles, they look nice, but I think for a rental, you're not going to get everybody that wants to keep up with the grouting of them and keeping everything sealed as it should be. So I think wet walls usually quite a good way to go. It's lower maintenance, and it means you don't have to worry, like I say, about keeping the tiles grouted.
So wet wall. Sorry, Charlotte, on you go.
I was going to say as well, with the ceilings, you're finding a lot just now that landlords are wet walling their ceilings and installing a fan just so condensation mold doesn't happen. That's another tip as well. Wet wall the ceiling.
So, from a point of view that wet wall and tiles, which one will a tenant prefer, Karen?
Wet.
Definitely wet wall.
It's just easier because you don't have to worry about the maintenance of it as much. If it gets to the point where it's past its best or it doesn't look good anymore, it can just be taken off and like a different kind put back up, as opposed to, I mean, if you've got a lot of tiles up there, that's a big job to try and get them pulled off to put something else back on.
From a cost point of view, James, wet wall or tiles?
Wet wall, definitely.
I mean, it's £300 a sheet.
Yeah, well, you can spend more than that on the tiles and then getting someone to fit them. So yeah, it probably makes sense to go with the wet wall, I think.
It is the trade-off. Absolutely. That's kind of how I look at it as well. Is there a certain type of wet wall it sells to a tenant, Karen? Is it certain colours or certain patterns?
Usually kind of like the marble effect ones go down quite well. So like if you've got like a white bathroom and you're putting like a light grey like marble effect one up.
Yep.
That's what I did in one of my bathrooms. So it made it look, it was like a peach coloured bathroom before. So I covered up the tiles that were like a terracotta colour with like a light grey wet wall, painted the rest of it white, put a new flooring down, and the difference in it was amazing. And that was done on a budget as well. So it's not like you're having to spend an absolute fortune just to give it that gift.
Yeah, that makes sense. And Charlotte, from a property management point of view, when you're going round, what's your personal experience of tiles and wet wall?
Definitely wet walls the way forward. With tiling, you find that you get soap scum, if there's cracking in the grout, you could be letting water through down into the floor. Then you've got the risk of rotten floorboards, your bath sinking. Just eliminate that all by spending that extra bit of money at the start to put wet wall in. Like I said as well, wet wall in the ceiling, because you are finding that some tenants don't ventilate as well as others, so you can get condensation mold quite fast if they're not using like a fan or opening the window when they're showering. So having a wet wall ceiling as well, you're noticing that there's not any mold, and it's easy clean as well. So
we spoke about this, James, about fans in bathrooms now, yeah? Making sure that because everybody's airtight almost with the Scottish Government's legislation about about insulating every single house, about eliminating every single draft, it's almost now essential to, even though you've got a window in a bathroom, to have a fan.
That's exactly right. Yeah, we did speak about that yesterday in the bathroom. Luckily, it did have a fan installed, but it only works as well as the willingness of the tenants as well, because I've seen situations where they've blocked up the fan because they want to keep the heat in the house.
Yeah.
It's not ideal.
Which is why regular property management inspections are essential.
Indeed.
To make sure that doesn't happen, isn't it, Charlotte?
Yeah, definitely. I think as well, when you're doing your inspections, if you explain to the tenant what it is, because they think it's some mold that's growing and they're going to get seriously ill from it, but it's not. It's caused by themselves. So get the right mold cleaner, get the right equipment for it, open the blinking window when you're showering and turn the fan on.
Yeah.
It's not difficult.
The advantage here is, though, is actually to just put a humidifier, possibly, but actually put a timer fan in and actually just put it on for a certain amount of time.
Or you can get the fans that as soon as you put the light on, the fan comes on.
Yeah.
They're another good.
And at least that's something that's contributing overall to the getting most of the condensation out of the property. I mean, it is a big thing. We talked about upgrades and everything like that, but essentially that is going on to the long-term benefit of the tenant seeing improvements in the house and actually keeping the good quality of the house. Therefore, they want to live there longer. If you don't have a classic example, James, and you'll probably agree with me, like how I did that, you'll agree with me before I started that.
Yeah, before you even said
I hope
anything.
you'll agree with me. About making sure you actually properly have the ventilation, because what's going to happen is it ends up destroying your house because the ventilation isn't right, and it's what Charlotte says, the mold starts to go. And if anybody's out there and you're a tenant, if it's just black spot mold, it is not rising damp. It is nothing else other than lack of ventilation. That's all it causes. That it is a wipe down with bleach. Am I right, Charlotte? A wipe down.
Yeah. And as well, there's a brand, I think it's called HG mold spray. It is the best. You spray it on, leave it on for 10 minutes, and it literally wipes off.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so easy to do, but you do get tenants on the phone thinking, they might be planning the funeral next week because you've got a bit of condensation mold in their bathroom. And it's just like,
yeah. I've got it in the kitchen at the moment, and the solution was just to use one of these specific mold paints.
Yeah.
So you paint it in, and you just put another coat over the top of it that's the same colour as the bathroom or the kitchen, and it helps.
We've kind of got the formula then for bathrooms. It's white bathroom suites. It's possibly vanity cabinets, just to give that extra storage. It's wet wall, and it's proper flooring as well to accompany that as well. Let's talk about gardens in our final one. A modern and inviting low maintenance outdoor space is a definite winner. Even more so since COVID, it's made a fundamental difference, making getting outside feeling like a privilege for some people. You don't need to recreate the Chelsea Flower Show. In fact, keeping it simple and managing will win you the fans without presenting an overwhelming display of pruning duties. No matter how much they enjoy being outdoors, not every tenant is an expert gardener, and we know that. So what is the best scenario in order to do gardens so you have minimum maintenance, and you have a position where it's easily manageable for a tenant? Charlotte, what have you come across in your travels?
I've noticed that people that have grass in their gardens, and if they aren't garden savvy, they don't know what they're doing. I say take out the garden, put in AstroTurf if you still want a bit of greenery. If not, get it slabbed, get it decked, something really low maintenance that you don't have to do anything on, because you are finding as well, coming into the spring, you're driving past someone thinking they've not cut their grass yet, and then you'll drive back the week later, but they've still not cut their grass yet. So yeah, AstroTurf I think is probably the way forward. Very low maintenance.
AstroTurf, yeah. You have to get the Hoover out apparently and Hoover that, I've been told. And James, what's your thoughts on this? Decorative paving, stone chipping, plant bedding areas, lawn. What are you thinking?
So yeah, I've got a property at the moment that requires a good bit of work done in the garden, and I think we're going to go along the routes of slabbing a lot of it and putting in some green space, but not a huge amount, and driving at the foot of the garden. But as with everything else at the moment, some people have money to burn, and I can't get anybody in before the end of July to do that work. But yeah, again, it's going back to your curb appeal.
Yeah,
things,
somebody rocks up. I mean, Karen, what's your experience? Somebody walks out the back garden. Has it got to be wow?
No, I think keep it simple. You find we've got a few landlords that do have like wow gardens, but with that they pay for the gardener to come out and deal with it, because it needs specialists. It needs somebody that knows what they're doing with it. So keeping it simple, whether you've got like a slabbed area. The only point with decking is upkeep. So at least if you've got a slabbed area, it's low maintenance. But and yeah, a wee bit of greenery as well. Like Charlotte says, you've got quite a lot of people that are going down the fake grass just now because it's nice to have that bit of green, but not everybody wants to cut the grass. So it is something to consider more these days as well.
Is it important to have exterior lighting as well?
Even just like a security light, so when somebody's walking up to their door at night, they've got a light popping on so they can get their keys out their bag. Just that wee bit of light so they can even see what they're doing. You don't want to be tripping up your garden path just to go and try and open up your door.
I mean, if you do the garden right, effectively they've got an outdoor room for the day, you know, and possibly for the night as well. If you do it right, haven't you?
Especially with the way things are just now, everybody's making the most of their garden space. So I think having like a nice area for them to be able to enjoy is quite important just now.
And adding a few pot plants and for the spring and the summer perennials and the blooming again every year, your tenants will really have a colourful and sceneful place and space to, and they only really need to water them as such. So you get hard wearing ones, and that's ultimately it. I mean, you know, outdoor space is probably a big winner as well, isn't it? With COVID, you know, a lot of people are actually doing staycations and they're just staying home. They're not going anywhere else. So families, you know, is that probably the best thing for the families, the need for outdoor space? Or do you see, Karen, it's just single people, or is it families, or you know, what's the trends that are happening just now?
I think just everybody is wanting nice outdoor space, especially people that have got families. If they've got small kids, they want to be able to let their kid out in the garden to play. So they want like a nice grassy kind of area that their child can play. They don't want something that their kid's going to potentially fall and hit their head on. Like you want something low maintenance and safe wise as well, so they can just open the door and let them play.
And it's a winner every time. That's what it comes down to. And Charlotte, you know, but that's us an hour already. Charlotte, what's your final thoughts on this overall, just to package this all up? You know, for what can be done to increase rentals, increase the occupancy rate, the upgrades, and everything like that within a cost-effective manner. I
think as a landlord, if you want a good tenant that's going to stay there for a long time, put that little bit of extra money into your property, get it the way, you know, modern looking. So you're going to keep everybody happy, and don't try and cut corners on little things. Make sure it's the little details that are done right. Just to keep your tenant stays. Yeah.
Karen, final thoughts?
Yep, I think a nice fresh property, you're obviously going to attract a better tenant for it, and somebody that's longer. Keep it nice. Well, like we've kind of covered, the light colours like the whites and the greys, just the way to go these days. Attracts better tenants that are going to want to look after the property a bit more as well.
Yeah. And what about yourself, James? What's your thoughts on this? You know, final thoughts.
Well, I think in common with other contributors, something that's nice and bright, watertight. You know, it's good quality without sort of blowing the budget to create that win-win for the tenant, and you know, hopefully have a long-term tenant in there.
Yeah, I mean, with proper execution, making improvements on your rental property will increase your income and attract a higher quality tenants. It will actually reduce void periods. We've talked about that, and future-proof your property's value. There's no one-size-fits-all amount when it comes to the budget, but I mean, the reality is, you know, we're here to help anyway, and hopefully this program will have helped most people that are starting out in their journey or are actually experienced landlords, and they've maybe picked up some top tips there. So if you're a landlord, you know, please feel free to message us at any point in time, and we're more than happy to give you more advice and support on what you're doing. And see where to go from there to increase your income, increase your portfolio, and actually allow you to then release more money, possibly, you know, through higher values and higher quality tenants, to then do the same again and again and again, and make more money ultimately overall. You know, after all, this is a proper investment business, and it's a vehicle for most people for pensions, for investments. And we'll talk about that tomorrow, James, on our live broadcast anyway. You know, how you could potentially make anything from a 10% to a 17% net return. Wow. When I was looking at these numbers, I thought, how did you manage to get that house? but we'll talk about that tomorrow. And that's it for today, guys. Thanks very much for coming on the show. Thanks, James. Thanks, Karen. And thanks, Charlotte. And thanks everybody else for watching. And bye-bye for now.
Bye now.